I'm Eerf Evil. I'm an artist, organizer, co-founder of the Silhouettes Project, one of the founders of Each One Teach One, and we're here today, well, actually every day for 7 days, building a community-owned and governed sound system, in collaboration with Brick Lane, in collaboration with Felt Sound System as well. Seeing how the community can build the system from scratch, but also govern a sound system and create policies that like look back at the history of sound system culture, but also look to the future.
It would be amazing if you could tell me a little bit about the journey of the sound system that we're having a look at and how it came to be.
We run a thing called Each One Teach One, which started out as like a reasoning session or a reasoning corner with the elders. So we brought some young people together, some elders together. The first one we had Channel One sound system, Bushkin, King Tafari, Lion Beat. Like some really amazing elders came into the space.
Amazing.
And then we brought like a group of young people together, and it was in and around City Splash.
Okay.
So we linked up with City Splash. We had a food, a reasoning, and then all the young people, in fact, everyone bought a record. And it was like, how do we have these moments where we're linking up in community and learning about our culture in a really natural way? Not got nothing against panels and workshops and stuff, but like, how do we do it where like those moments felt really natural back in the day? That when I was growing up, that everyone would hold a reasoning on the corner, and it's like it feels like that's slipping away. So we wanted to recreate those moments, and then we did a series of them. And then my boy Mark from Felt Sound System, big up Mark from Felt Sound System, he was also doing some things at the time, like around building systems. And one of our reasonings with the young people separately was they wanted to build a system. So we was like, all right, let's get some resources together and build Each One Teach One sound system. So me and Mark linked up, and like the ethos and the philosophy aligned. So last summer we built the first sound system in Hackney in Gillette Square, which was super beautiful, and like it's actually the first one in there. And then from that we kind of built a curriculum that kind of looked at like movements that have gone before us, collectives that have gone before us, and how do we build as collectives. And then how do we start to steward assets? So using the sound system as a bit of a community asset that can bring family together, that can bring our community together. So the first system was ran and governed by the crew that built it. And then this system here, we linked up with Brick Lane Jazz Festival. I was speaking with Juliet, and she was putting on a conference, and we came up with the idea of building a Brick Lane sound system. So again, me and Mark got together, put a design together. And that's what we're doing right now. We're building the Brick Lane Jazz Festival sound system.
Yeah, I actually saw the system in Gillette Square, like, and I don't know, when it was first being used, like it was just so joyful because that area is already just like a pocket of community when you're walking through. It's like hate to say third space, but it is like it's like a place for people to
100%.
be. Like,
You know what? And
cool.
there's a bit of history for that square. It was like it was meant to be an open community center.
Right.
So it was meant to be a third space.
Okay.
And then like, as you can imagine, lack of funding like doesn't allow for projects to exist there. And like we said, like we exist here, so we're gonna put on like that's a space that we do festivals in. We bring the community together. The fact that big up for seeing the sound system there, because that system basically lives, like the young people that created it now operate in Gillette Square, and like they link up with the elders. The elders jump on the microphone with them. So it's like some people fear what they don't know, but like spaces like that it's community, man. So it's healing as well. So yeah, man.
I think it's also really interesting as well what you're saying about, so with like Each One Teach One and bringing records to literally Each One Teach One, show each other,
Yeah.
and that kind of tangibility, like even in the space where you've got like all of your thoughts on the walls, like it feels, very intentional, and it feels like it's a collaboration. You can see everyone's thought processes in there. And I think question I'd like to ask is, obviously when something is collaboratively owned, it means it's like a collective responsibility.
Yeah.
So what do you feel is the responsibility of artists at the moment? Like what's their role?
I think it's a really good question and something that like I spend a lot of time thinking about. And I think Nina Simone says it perfectly, where that artists are supposed to reflect the times that we're living in. And I think for a long time artists can be quite scared because it's like a lot of corporations like own the labels and manage what people can and can't say. People are scared of getting cancelled online, and it's like, yo, like people are dying every day, you know? So it's like, I think the artist's role, rather than making money and searching for purpose, is to reflect the times that we're in. Like, we're meant to be talking up about what's going on in our high street. We're meant to be talking about youth violence or gentrification, or like the wars that we're seeing, the genocides that we're seeing in Palestine, Lebanon, what's going on in Iran as well. It's like we should, and if we don't know, let's clue ourselves up. Like, I look back at the Black Panthers, and like they were reading 2 hours a day. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very like ADHD, where like I'm not good at reading that well, but I force myself to read. It's like I have to read so that I know what I'm talking about. And like, our ancestors have been here before. Like, they've shown us, like, yo, this is like the questions that I'm asking. In the 70s, they were asking the same question. Like, we had the loss of space, we had gentrification, we had people coming into our communities and extracting our knowledge. And the same is happening now, pardon. So it's that I think it's the artist's responsibility to really talk about what's going on right now. And like, whatever that comes with, whether it's, I don't think we're radical enough right now, you know. Like, back in the day, they would like go to prison for causes. Like, some people would even risk their own lives for causes. And it's like, you know, Fela Kuti got arrested 100 times. Like, I'm listening to one of his podcasts, and it's like, my man was beating like the good and bad fella in his story. I'm listening to the podcast that shows two sides to him, but it's like, he was really about the cause, and like he created shrines and brought things back to our areas to teach and like have the knowledge shared in our community. So for me, it's like, as an artist, and like what I would say to other artists, like, I couldn't care about making it if my community's not coming with me. Then what is making it? You know, like, I got nephews that are growing up in South London. South London needs to change, blood. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, it's pivotal that the artists represent the communities and we start to talk about what's going on. And I think one way of doing that is us collectively coming together and being like, not one person doing it. Like, there's that Spartacus film where like they're asking who's Spartacus, and like, I have this dead example, yeah, but one goes forward and then they all go forward. Whereas right now it feels like one person goes forward and everyone's like, oh, let them take the fall, you know. And it's like, actually, nah, if 100 of us is saying, nah, fuck this, like, this ain't right, then something will change. But if one person's doing it, it's not enough. So I think we all need to move in unison, have a shared philosophy where we're like, yo, this is one thing we can all agree on, and ban the system. Sorry, man, I'm rapping.
No,
I apologize.
we could answer, because I think like we've kind of shifted, I guess maybe with social media as well. I hate to be like a boomer and say this, but I don't know, I feel like we've kind of shifted to a culture of kind of observation sometimes. Like, it's easy to
100%.
watch one person, but kind of fear putting yourself forward collectively. I think also when you were speaking about gentrification, like, that's something that's really interesting about Brick Lane as an area, because obviously like it's undergone waves of migration from its start. Like, that's kind of the history of this place. And like, yeah, constant redevelopments, which is what changed the area and changed the community. And like, now there's plans for a data center, like, to be built on the Truman Brewery, with maybe 4 like social housing units within this plan. And where am I going with this? I guess, sorry, we'll just edit this out.
You're good. This is good. You're going somewhere. Whatcha inside?
So obviously we're at Brick Lane Jazz Festival.
Yes.
And I'd like to know your take on this. If jazz had a lesson to teach us about how to show up, how to live, how to be, like, what do you think that lesson would be? What's it trying to communicate?
Jazz, I think freedom, you know. I think like when I think about jazz, I think about like being unrestrained. Like, I think jazz is so expansive, like, and especially like when you trace its roots and how people have adapted it as well. Like, I'm in a big fella space, and when he went to the States and he got influenced by like the jazz scene and like the James Browns and everyone over there, he came back and he expanded it into the Afrobeat, you know. So like, jazz is so expansive in terms of, I think about scatting with flows, like, and like in my head, I'm like, anyway, I got my own views on scatting, yeah. But like, the freedom it can have to create new flows, and like, it can go into so many different spaces. And I think, especially particularly for the Black community, for us to reconnect with that improvisation. Like, when we started with the Silhouettes, we had like a jazz band that was like a bit of a jam 8 years ago. And like, I remember being like, whoa, like, what we can just flow. And like, it was like, felt like new rivers were being formed as we was doing it. So I feel like when I think of jazz, like, I never studied jazz. Like, I'm from the school of hip hop, but like, jazz samples was always embedded into whatever we created. And like, just having that live element of jazz over the last 8 years, I feel like a student again. And it's like, it just allowed my mind to expand a little bit more of like, you can really stretch things, you know. So I think the message that jazz brings for me, with my limited knowledge on jazz, is the freedom and like the expansive nature of it, and that it's ours as well. It's the communities. So
Yeah. Could you speak more about that? About jazz belonging to a specific, well, you say it's ours, like someone.
I always thought it was a white thing, you know. Like I thought jazz was not for me. Like that's what I was
Radio
saying.
6
Yeah, I was
tracks and
like
like,
UK
yeah.
rap when I grew up.
Mm.
I only listened to rap, so like my mind was like, and I also thought that was the best type of music, and still do. But then when I started to study it and started to see like the Nina Simones and like the people that really like brought jazz to the forefront, I was like, oh, then nowadays you're getting people like Yusuf Days, Ezra Collective, all these movements, Yasmin Lacey, all these artists, Tomorrow's Warriors. Like, it's like, I see myself reflected in it again. And I think in history, like, I wasn't shown that at a certain point growing up. So I never thought it was for me. And I think, especially for young people these days, like, you have to see yourself reflected so you can understand that you're also a part of that. And like, actually, like, jazz was created from the Black community as well, and we kind of have an amnesia, and sometimes we lose the stories. I think storytelling is super important for us to know that, yeah, I can do that. I can see my, like, I think it's so beautiful seeing my nephews and they could watch someone like Yusuf Days on the drums at a really high level, or Ezra Collective, and be like, or Earth on stage, and be like, yeah, like that could be them, you know. So I think it's, jazz for me is like also about like reconnecting to roots, but then how it's influenced so many genres, high life, Afrobeat, hip hop. It's the birthplace of a lot of genres, and I think that's super beautiful. And it's got so much space to go and evolve into as well.
Yeah, that is the beauty of it. It kind of defies definition, really. Like you said, it's expansive, and also, yeah, what you said about storytelling, like it kind of, we think about where jazz came from, it being influenced by like the blues, which comes from like, I don't know, like work songs, feel like oral storytelling traditions, field hollers, like
Yes,
telling. Yeah, it's a long story, and it is interesting to see where it goes next. It's interesting what you said as well about thinking jazz was like a white thing. I don't know. I can relate to like kind of being in spaces where it's been really intellectualized, almost like it's
100%.
kind of taken away and abstracted to be like, no, this is something quite refined that you don't need to view for like a colonial lens. Like,
100%.
so I don't know if there's parallels maybe between what we're seeing. Trying to force that gentrification question in somewhere.
No,
It's gonna fit in
no, but
somewhere.
I think there's a lot of parallels.
Yeah,
There's one place, like, I would say it, like, because I've got personal ties to it, was Hackney Wick.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like areas, and again, this is a big systemic problem that we're facing here in all of our communities, whether it's Brick Lane, whether it's Croydon, whether it's Hackney, whether it's Bristol. It's like, actually, like, the inflation that that we're getting to is that it's making it so hard to afford anything. So like community spaces, shop fronts, grocers, we're all oppressed by the same system. And like, until we can come together collectively and start to like reimagine how we exist in these spaces, and a lot of it comes down to land, a lot of it comes down to ownership, and spaces getting lost on our high street. So like the loss of independent spaces, the loss of production, like that, we're like the means to produce things ourselves in our communities and then being able to sell it, is like, that's hitting us across the board, like globally, you know. And that's the main basis of capitalism, is to take away the means to produce, so that like they mass produce in other spaces and sell it back to us. And the idea that we're saying now is that in order for us to like combat things like capitalism, things like gentrification, we need to come up with an alternative. And the alternative for me looks like us creating a shared economy where like everyone has something, kind of going back to the village, basically. The baker, the mechanic, the doctors, it's like localizing these things. I see it in music as well. Like, we have so many creatives in music, in the music industry, so many artists, but we don't have enough organizers. We don't have enough spaces and people having the strategic conversation of like, when we distribute, it's always through major labels. And it's like, there's money in music, but it goes straight up, or it goes to the Spotify's. We need radical answers for these we need radical solutions for these questions. And I think we need to create the time and space to think about what a new world looks like that feeds back into our community. So if you have a label, what's the give back to the community? If you have a venue, what's the give back to the community? If you're an artist, what's your give back to the community? And like, all of the work we try and mirror is, there has to be something that goes back into the community. And this was the conversation with Brick Lane, which they were super receptive to, was that let's do this sound system build, let's do this conference, so that we're like feeding back into the local community. And I like, for a lot of spaces, I really respect them for that, because a lot of places don't do that, especially in somewhere like Brick Lane. So yeah, man.
That's wicked. What like advice would you give to someone that maybe wants to get into organizing or is thinking that they want to see the change you're describing too and are trying to imagine that better future, but not sure how they can contribute or how to get started, maybe? Like, do you have anything to like advise on?
I think like think about the problem that you're trying to face. Like, what is the problems that you're trying to face? You can't solve every problem. Think about one of the problems you're trying to face, and like create space and time to use your imagination to think of a solution. I think often we're reactive. Something happens and then we're reacting to it. What about creating a response over time? I think when me and Asher, my boy Asher, set up the Silhouettes project, it was in response to like, we felt like there was a massive ceiling for this conscious jazzy sound. So we was like, all right, Bunny, what would it look like if we didn't focus on an individual, but focused on a collective movement in music? And it was like, what do we have at our hand? Like, we had an idea. We didn't have no money, no nothing. We had a studio, Route 73, which was super amazing. That's our non-for-profit studio. So we had a space. And then we said, our network, how do we get everyone together within our network? So that was like all the artists that we knew at the time. And we just shared with them a vision. Not everyone messed with the vision. So not everyone that came on, because we had nothing to show for it. But we had passion and we had a purpose. And then we got the whole crew together, and it took us years to develop that. But it was real and genuine. So I think that really finding what is the issue that you're trying to address, and like what are the networks around you? Because people are always like trying to network with someone else. It's like, nah, like, who is around you that you can start from? Because you can always start from somewhere, and how do you build from that?
Yeah, like finding the resources that you already have at your disposal.
100%,
Sure.
100%. And what we're going to be doing is in fact, this is an exclusive. I haven't put it out there yet, but we're going to be doing a youth club tour where we're going to be coming to Bristol and building a sound system with the Rise Collective crew, which is going to be massive. And the idea is that how do we build in-person networks, like with like people being like super like, it's been not knowing what to do with social media and having to think about feeding into the algorithm. We're thinking, how can the people take power back and like start to link up in person, and using the sound system as a vehicle to create those conversations. So we're going to be linking up with Rise Collective in Bristol. So watch out for that. And then we'll also be in Huddersfield, Birmingham, and High Wycombe. So yeah, man, we're going to make the UK loud again, man. That's the plan. So big up. Sick.
Thank you.
For the first interview, banging.